Welcome to your Farm and Home Show. My name is Joanna Coles, and today we're visiting with Brandilyn Reddick. She's the Warren County Extension Agent for Family and Consumer Sciences. Well, as summer kind of ramps up, we are going to spend more time in the pool, at the lake, doing all kinds of water recreation.
Yes.
But there is some safety tips that we probably just need to keep in mind, because we hear about those tragedies, and we certainly don't want that to be something that we are living out. And so these tips, I think, will help people kind of avoid some of those things.
Exactly. And drowning is a #1 cause of death for children. So it is really important to keep these things in mind. Constant supervision is especially important, making sure that we are, constantly watching over our children and even adults, because there are adults, many adults that don't know how to swim. So it's really important that we are constantly supervising. Life jackets, anytime we are, swimming in lakes, rivers, even on boats, we're out boating, we need to make sure that we are wearing life jackets. And life jackets need to be U.S. Coast Guard approved. So that's really important. Make sure you have what I would call like a water watcher. Like when you're gathered with a group of adults, make sure you have one designated adult who is going to be supervising children or even just kind of scanning. And that is someone that is not going to be distracted by reading a book or on their phone. Just maybe have a designated time that person's going to be supervising.
And a lot of times if we're at the pool or something, there's a lifeguard there. And so that might give us a sense of security to have the lifeguard, and certainly so. But if it's a big area, it's still probably important to make sure there's one person at least watching what's going on.
Exactly. And it also gives maybe your group of people a sense of security, knowing that you have that one extra person that's going to constantly have eyes on people. Have a buddy system. If it's a group of kids, maybe you have, 2 or 3 kids swimming together so that they also have that extra added security. And make sure that, you're always swimming in areas where there's a lifeguard, as you mentioned. So that's a safe swim area where, the children and the adults feel safe always swimming where there's a lifeguard. Make sure that the pools are enclosed. They have a fence. They have locks that are secure so that children cannot get into those areas unsupervised. And then we want to make sure that we are checking water conditions in the places that we are swimming, whether it's ponds, whether it's lakes, rivers, if you're traveling to the beach. We want to make sure that we are checking the water conditions of those places before we are swimming. What is the current like? Is there any bacteria? Things like that, so that we know that before we're swimming, it is safe. And then we want to make sure that we are obeying the signs of any places that we are swimming. What are the rules? What are the regulations? And because that's going to add an extra layer of security and safety for us. And then if we're traveling to the beach, as I've mentioned, what are the ocean currents like? Usually there is a sign. They have different, depending on where you're traveling, there is a sign that lets us know what is the current like that day. And so you can be aware, is it safe to swim? And some people don't know what to do if they get caught in a riptide, current. It is important that we swim parallel instead of trying to swim back to the shore, because then that's how we get caught up in a riptide and we get carried away and then try to swim to shore.
And so those are all good things to know before you get caught in a situation like that. And then the other, I think, is just swim where it's designated. A lot of times we want to veer off the beaten path and go where it's maybe not as populated, but there could be rocks, there could be other dangers there. And so whether that's in a creek or whether that's at the beach, just swim in those designated areas.
Yes. And then another thing important to note is for children, make sure that they are wearing bright, like for example, neon colored swimsuits, because this helps them be more visible in the water, especially if they're swimming in pools. If they're wearing a swimsuit that's not bright, then it's less noticeable for parents and others to see them in the water.
So we appreciate you watching the Farm and Home Show and hope you have a great day.